All right, we are live.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody. And adequate notice has been given, so I will go ahead and bring the special Board of Education meeting to order. So we're going to switch the agenda tonight to vote on the consent items first, because Kim just let me know that she is running late. So I'm trying to allow her some time to go ahead and log on. So Stacy, we're gonna need a motion to modify the agenda.
Yes. Let's see. Well, I move that the Board of Education change the agenda, or reverse agenda items 2 and 3.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so now, Stacy, I'm gonna ask you please to read the motion on the consent agenda.
I move that the board accept the consent agenda items 3.02 and 3.03.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion passes unanimously. All right, so as you know, the purpose of this meeting tonight, the primary purpose of the meeting tonight is to discuss and vote on a new board member as a result of Dave Gulick's resignation. And originally, we had intended to make this decision on June 8th, and we're not able to meet due to a scheduling conflict. So we appreciate the patience and flexibility of our applicants and of the public. Thank you. Thank you very much to everybody. We also appreciate the number of people who applied for this position. And I feel like that really shows, is evidence of the deep commitment of our community and their willingness to help and to be a part of the board. And so we, on behalf of the entire board, we thank you for that too. Each applicant really offers a unique opportunity to help us grow. However, unfortunately, the reality is that we have only one spot available. And this decision has been difficult. And we really want to make sure that we are making the best decision for the board and ultimately for the students of our district. I will say that I hope that the applicants who are not selected tonight are not discouraged to continue to explore ways to be engaged with the school district. And I also hope to see all of you running in the April election. This process started back on May 19th when the board officially declared the vacancy after receiving the resignation of David Gulick, who resigned with 2 years remaining on the term of Board of Education. That evening on May 19th, the board requested that the president and vice president establish the process aligned with our policy and state statutes to appoint a replacement for Dave. And on May 20th, the announcement of the vacancy was sent to the community and it was published on our district website along with the details about the application process. And materials were due by June 3rd at 5 p.m., I believe. And we have 8 individuals that submitted applications and materials. And their names in alphabetical order are Paul Porter, Jeremy Farmer, Jason Grow, Diana Hopper, Richard Kest, Aaron Linenbringer, Steve Singer, and Christine Nguyen. And as I said earlier tonight, we're going to vote to select someone to fill the vacancy on the Board of Education. And once appointed, that person is going to serve until April of 2022, at which time there will be a special election to fill the last year of Dave Gulick's 3-year term. So each board member was asked to review all of the applicants' materials and to submit the name of their top candidate to the board president and to the vice president. In addition to the review of the materials, applicants were encouraged to reach out to board members to discuss their skill set and ask questions. And based upon this feedback I received from each board member, the applicants one person emerged with having the most support, and that person's name is Steve Singer. And according to our policy, appointments must be made through a formal motion that is seconded and confirmed with an affirmative vote by the majority of the board. So at this time, I would like to suggest that we have a motion to appoint Steve to fill the board vacancy until April 2022. So Stacy, will you go ahead and read that motion?
Okay, so we don't think Kim is calling.
Is she on yet?
No, she is not on.
Okay, so she will not be able to vote if she's not on when the motion.
I can text her, or should I just go ahead?
Sorry, was I muted?
Yeah,
Can you guys hear me now?
yes.
Sorry, I'm having difficulties because I'm seeing like a live transcript going on at the bottom of my screen. So it's messing me up a little bit. I think if she's not on right now,
She
we
just
need to.
texted me 5 minutes, but
What you could do is you could take a 5-minute break, and we could just wait 5 minutes and see if she's comes back on.
I think that's fine. So let's go ahead and let's take a 5-minute break, see if she's able to get on. And if not, then Stacy, I'll have you go ahead and read the motion.
So, and I would ask that while during that break, if you could make sure that you're muted and also make sure that your screen's off.
Very good.
Kim just joined the room.
Okay, great. Okay, Sean.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, great. So I think Kim just joined us. So Stacy, I'm going to have you go ahead and read that motion, please, to appoint Steve Singer. And then after you read it, we'll have some discussion, but go ahead and read it.
I move that the Board of Education nominates Steve Singer to serve as board director from June 2021 through April 2022.
Okay, Stacy, hold on a second. Stacy,
Yes.
can you, I need you to read it so it's to say that to apply appoint Steve Singer, not to nominate.
Oh, okay. I move that the Board of Education appoint Steve Singer to serve as board director from June 2021 through April 2022.
Second.
Okay, great. So it's been moved and seconded. And now what I'm going to do is just kind of go around in order of how I'm looking at you guys on my screen here, and call on each of you to speak to whether or not you are in favor of the motion. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Joe.
Thanks, Amy. So I want to say a couple things. The first is I want to compliment you and Gary and Sean on the process. I know that you all were part of the last process, and we didn't necessarily get positive feedback on our last process. You, Amy, as board member, you as the superintendent, Sean, and Gary, you as candidate, who then got nominated. So thank you. I know this is imperfect. This is an imperfect situation, so thanks for taking us through this process. I also want to say that it was great that we got 8 folks. I was able to meet with 4 in person, with 4 of the 8 who reached out, and then texted back and forth with a 5th. So I feel, like at least I got a better sense of 5 of the 8. And then just finally, I want to say why I do support Steve Singer becoming a board member. So Steve, as we saw from what he submitted, he was the board president of this board for 3 years. He was on the board for 9 years. He was part of what some of you may not know, but I just know because of the dates. He was part of a superintendent transition. He was part of actually Nisha's, our new superintendent, Dr. Patel's interviews. And so I think he's going to get up to speed really quickly. And that's important as we especially as we have a new superintendent. So I could stop there, but I'm not. I'm going to continue and say some other things, which is that Steve was also president of a charter school board, which whether we like it or not is something that's important, right? In for public schools right now. He's been president of 2 nonprofit boards. As we think about partnership, I think that's important. And he represents a demographic that we often talk about that we don't have on the board, right? He is a person, I'm not going to say his age, but who is over 60, who doesn't have kids in the district anymore. And that, by the way, is 50 to 60% of the voting population for the Clayton School Board and district are those folks. So I think that that's an important demographic that we have an opportunity. And then I'll just say maybe finally that 2 things. One, if you look at the 6 of us, 3 of us kind of had our kids come up through Captain, and 3 of us had our kids come up through Glenridge. Steve's kids came up through Merrimack. I think that's good. That's good to be, not that we're elected by area, but I think that's a good thing. And then finally, Steve's background is strong. He's got 25 plus years of executive leadership, business experience, undergraduate degree from Stanford, master's degree from Stanford, and master's degree from Harvard. So that's why I support Steve.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Can I, Gary?
Thanks, Amy. I Also supporting the motion and support appointing Steve. I'm not going to reiterate everything that Joe said, although there are a lot of the same points that are important to me. I will say the fact that when I was a candidate for this board for the first time, and I got to meet with Steve, he was someone that a lot of people told me that I needed to talk to and to learn from. And I was a little intimidated about that. And he asked me some really hard questions, I can recall. And I think he will ask us a lot of hard questions, but I think he will also, based on his experience on this board and on other boards, help us answer some hard questions. The fact that there's only, I think I'm getting this right, only one of us has ever been on this board on any superintendent's first day. So the fact that we will have someone else who can, has been through that before and has a lot of experience is really, really important to me. That was a really critical thing I think that we need for this year, is that help and that experience in bringing on our new superintendent and moving forward. So that was a really compelling reason for me. I also, the other board experience is also something that I draw on a lot in my own experience on the board and other boards that I've been a part of. So I think it'll be really helpful that Steve's been a part of those other types of boards too. And this is similar to what Joe was saying about the different constituencies, but it's been something that I've been saying since before I was on this board, that we don't tap into enough. We don't take advantage of the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom that's embodied in our former board members and former other leaders within the city and the district. And I think this is a really good chance to act on that and take advantage of that and tap into that resource. So that's an important consideration for me. And finally, just kind of the last point, I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that this process is a really difficult and challenging one for any board. And the fact that in our case, this time around, it produced 8 candidates makes that even more so. And I don't know how well this is known, but just as an example of how difficult this can be, I think Webster Groves twice within the last 2 or 3 years has had a vacancy and not been able to appoint someone. They've left the position vacant until the election. They just decided to do that again, or I don't decided, they are doing that again just right now. So it's a really difficult process that we have to go through, and the fact that we had all of these really great candidates that applied, I was able to talk to several of them too, and it's a really it's good to have so many people, but it does make it more difficult. To me, it's really important that this is an opportunity for all of those very qualified people to run in the special election if they want to do that, or in another seat, and none of them will be at a disadvantage. None of them will have be able to be the appointed incumbent, and I say that as someone who benefited from that. But that won't happen if we have someone who's just running or just appointed for 1 year. And I think that's important for everybody involved to be able to go through that process kind of on the same playing field. So that was a really important consideration for me as well. So just another reason that I support appointing Steve. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Jason.
Well, it's not that I don't just support Steve per se. I mean, I can say a bunch of great things about Steve, but that's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to say is this: being on the board is about making difficult decisions. When we were chosen by the public to represent the community, it's about making difficult decisions. So I personally enjoy being in tight spots. I like to be able to have conversations about tough situations, tough things, so that we can come out on the upside with good solutions. When I think about what the board should look like, I think about forward progress, like evolution, the constant delta. Life is about the constant delta. Things are always changing. For example, I think Lee Iacocca, for example, was an excellent CEO. He did wonderful things for Chrysler. At the same time, I don't know if I would want to hire Lee Iacocca now for Chrysler now, because the game has changed. The thing is that he understands finance, he understands development, he understands a lot of things about the automobile industry. But Lee Iacocca came in and he put the stamp on the industry, and he left it with a lot of new innovative thoughts about how to evolve as an automobile industry. And it's the same thing I think about when it comes to the school board. What I'm looking for is new thoughts and people with different experiences to help bring the school board forward. So this is not a slight against Steve Singer, who I think is awesome. I mean, when I was running for the school board, I have great things to talk about. We went to his house, had a great conversation. It lasted about 2 hours. I appreciate everything about him and everything he's done up to this point, up to that point when he left. But things are different now. And what I want to see is the process be played out. It is difficult. It's very tough. But the process is the process. And I'm not going to duck any type of difficult situation because it's hard. Life is hard. I live a tough life. Life is always hard. So that's where I stand. So no, I'm not. I'm denying my vote for Steve Singer.
Okay, so thank you, Jason. Kim.
Yeah, first of all, my apologies for being late. I'm traveling for work, and I did not anticipate the flight delays down here, and the reception on the internet is spotty too, because I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I also had an opportunity to meet with the majority of the candidates. I've either met with in the past or during this process for appointing a board member, met with 4 out of the 8. So I know 5 of the 8 candidates. I think all 8 candidates on paper are qualified, but I think this is a very difficult process when we don't have, interviews, and not all of us have met everybody in person. All of us have different experiences with folks. I do appreciate the candidates that have come from underrepresented wards with respect to the makeup of the current board, and there's a few of them there. And there's other candidates that have a lot of both district volunteer experience, community volunteer experience, and past public board, and Steve in particular, this school board's experience. If it's the will of the majority of the board, I can get behind, to be honest, probably, any of the candidates. I know some better than others, but again, that's not an argument in favor of appointing one over the other. The reality is we need somebody to plug this gap for about 6 months. By the time the board reconvenes after the school year starts until the next election, it's not that long of a time. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Stacy.
I just want to reiterate how many great applicants we had for this position. And although it made the decision really tough, it's a good problem to have, because it makes me feel really good about the future of this board. And as I think Gary said, I don't want to discourage any of the applicants from not pursuing this in the future, because I do think we had really great applicants, and many of them would be a huge asset to our board for various reasons. I honestly, I actually supported and advocated for another applicant, not Steve, to be fully transparent, that I thought would be the best fit and an asset to the board right now for some of the reasons Jason mentioned. However, I also do not disagree with what Joe and Gary are saying, that I think this is a unique time that we are onboarding a new superintendent. So that makes the process now different from when Gary was appointed. I think, you know, our biggest job as a board of education is to hire and evaluate our superintendent. So I think the experience that Steve has with that is valid. And although I did support and give feedback and vote for another applicant, if the majority of the board feels that Steve is the best fit, I can definitely get behind that. And I do respect my fellow board members' opinions and feelings. And if Steve is chosen, I will fully support him as a fellow director of the board as well.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, great. So again, I just want to thank all of the applicants that applied and reiterate that, I mean, for me, there were truly, you know, 3 or 4 people that I think would really stood out to me and would be fantastic additions to the board. I do support Steve. I think that he, I do know that he's not planning on running in April, in the April election. I know that I've had a chance to talk to him. I know that he has reviewed our strategic plan. I know that he is, I asked him a question about, you know, what was his position on our equity work that we're doing, because that's something that's very important to me. And his response was that, you know, he's extremely supportive, and he in his world, he's done a lot of equity related work. So I was very excited to hear that, and to have his, I will be excited to have his expertise on that area. I also want to thank the board members for taking the time to go through this process with me. It's been time consuming. I know I've spent, each and every one of you has spent a tremendous amount of time going through the applications and meeting with people and having phone calls. So I sincerely appreciate all of your efforts. So I will, I think we've all had a chance to talk. And if there's no further discussion, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a vote.
Wait, hold on. Before we do that, let's slow it down a little bit. No, we ain't just going to vote. No, we need to have a discussion. I'm sorry.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm happy.
I mean, yeah, let's have a discussion. I mean, this wasn't everyone's #1 vote, and everyone's so cool with just like going with Steve. I mean, let me just tell you how frustrated I am right now. First of all, man, like, where are the tough decisions? Like, where is your heart? I mean, so we're looking for the easy way out. I know he has an impeccable resume and an incredible academic pedigree, but it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about, there are new people out there that can also provide some amazing leadership. And sometimes life is hard. But there's nothing more difficult than sitting here like, I mean, man, I'm just trying, I don't want to, listen, man, I don't want to make anybody out to be a villain here, but this is absolutely asinine.
Well, I mean, as I said, Steve is the person that emerged with the most support.
He had 2 votes. And then everyone's not now like rolling with the process. Come on, man. Don't lay down like that. It's okay to have a discussion. If after the discussion he emerges as the victor, then I'm cool with that. I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna roll with the punches, and we're gonna work together and make it happen. Just like all the other losses I've taken.
So I think that
I'd be damned if I sit here and just like everyone's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, well, if I was my first choice. I mean, I'll roll with it. Yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, I don't. Matter of fact, I don't even feel like I even need to tell him he's a great guy. I'm not going to sit here and do that. If he were to feel like he's like I'm dissing him, that's what can I do about that? The point here is that people have submitted their application. There's some good folks, and before we say let's roll with this one person, I think we should have a little bit of a dialogue. At the very least, a little dialogue, a little discourse.
I think we're all happy to do that. I think that's the purpose of having this conversation right now, is to have dialogue. So, I mean, I'm happy for you. If you have more that you want to say, or anybody else has further input, I'm happy to, stay on this call for as long as we need to in order for everybody to be heard.
Well, for me, I don't want to. The whole thing right now is now I have to defend my position of not wanting Steve. So I have to work my way out of that position and then get into a more neutral position where we can discuss other people. But that's not, right now I'm in defending myself, defending why I don't want Steve. That's where we are right now. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking, because this is how the game is played. Let me just be quiet and let you guys just handle your business.
I wonder if it would make sense for us to, talk about some of the other candidates, since it does not seem as if Steve had a super majority from from our rankings that we put in. I mean, Jason, don't disappear off screen. I think that these are good, points, discussions to bring up. So I'll talk about a few of the other candidates. So Erin Lindenbringer, and I'm not sure that I probably just butchered her last name. She has been very active in the district. She has kids in the district. She has a lot of experience both at the school level and at the district level. She was very active with Proposition E. So she knows the administrators in the central building very well as really all of the current board members. So I think she'd be an excellent candidate. She has a background in public health, which is something that the current board lacks. So that's also a plus, especially as we talk about social emotional learning. Different candidate than Steve. Jason Grow, he did Teach for America. He has former teaching experience. He has other board experience, a lot of public service. He is from Ward 1, which is underrepresented. What he does not have as much of is actual within the district, either at the school level or at the district level experience. Diana, she was somebody help me with Diana's last name.
Hopper.
Yeah, Diana Hopper. She has been the co-president of the Captain PTO for the last couple of years. She is actually a former Clayton graduate. She has younger sisters that are in the district. One is a senior in high school. It's about to go to Duke. The other is emerging, or what do we call it, rising sophomore that just completed her freshman year. She's the same age as my daughter. I coached her youngest sister in basketball during grade school. Also an excellent candidate, comes from a completely different perspective, family of educators. We just have, the reality is we have a lot of excellent candidates. And I think there's been plenty that's already been said about Steve as far as his pedigree and his experience. I don't disagree with Jason that there is some benefit to bringing a new voice to the board, but I also go back to, this is a voice that's only going to be here guaranteed until the elections of next year. And then all of this seat will be open along with, our regular rotation of 2 board seats. And I think, all 7, Amy said Steve is now planning on, applying to run in the open election or in the in the spring for either this open seat or for the regularly kind of rotating 2 open seats. I think all 7 candidates should run. And then at that point, it's up to, they will have the opportunity to individually voice what I think many of them have contacted us and talked about to the community, and then the community will decide who they think is the best candidate, the same way they decided for us, all 6 of us sitting here, that we were the best candidates on the slate at the time. So, Jason, I don't know if that's kind of the discussion you were hoping to have. I hope you do come back. Stacy, maybe you can talk about, what your thoughts were, since, I think we all respect Steve. There's no doubt about that. But you said that, in transparency, he wasn't your first choice either. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it, but I think, as I said, this was hard. These are really good applicants. I think Jason Grow had a great application and has great experience. He taught in St. Louis Public Schools, which is a unique perspective, both of being a teacher and in that, population, so different from Clayton. And so he certainly understands equity work. He's worked with, cultural leadership, which is a program, connecting Jewish and African-American teenagers in the name of social justice and many other things. And, I don't need to repeat everything you said, but I would say everything you said about Aaron and Diana, I agree with too. I think all of these applicants, as I said before, and as you said, would be great board members one day. And it does give me great hope. I think the reason although I didn't give my support of or feedback for Steve, though, was based on my feelings about those other candidates that I just mentioned. But I guess the reason I paused tonight is kind of hearing from Amy and Joe and Gary why, this is a unique situation with onboarding a new superintendent, and Amy having been the only one been through that, and Steve has been through that. And so I think, as that being our number one job, I don't want to take that part lightly. And so that's why I can also and would also get behind Steve, because I think that is our primary job, is, evaluating the superintendent, and he has onboarded a new superintendent. So that would give us 2 board members that have been through that before. So, I went back and forth in my head a lot before giving my feedback. And, but I do think, like I said, that is our number one job. So I don't want to ignore that part of the role and the experience that Steve has there.
And Amy, can I say something, which is just that, and I agree too. I met with Aaron, I met with Diana, I met with Jason. They're awesome. They're 3 great candidates, right? And so it's not about, I just think Steve's a unicorn, right? In this moment for what we need. So I respectfully disagree with you, Jason. I think it's good, right? It's not about going to the past. It's not Lee Iacocca. It's somebody who can bring us a specific set of skills. I just think it's a unicorn situation. It's not that I hope Diana and I hope Jason and I hope Aaron run and are on future boards. I will say that publicly. All great.
Yeah, I will reiterate what Joe just said. I think that Steve has a I'm not going to disclose who I ranked as my number one, but I will say that I think based on that Steve's skill set and his experience on the charter school board, which is an issue that is right upon us, and his experience with onboarding a superintendent, and the fact that he could really hit the ground running for the next 6 months was very compelling to me. And, for those reasons, I do support appointing him as the next board member to fill this vacancy.
Let me just say this. So when I think of Jason Grow, I'm looking at, some of the things that were important to me based on where we are right now as a board. is the strategic plan. And so things that he brings, 4 things that stuck out to me were, one, he had in-class experience working for Teach for America in the inner city school district of St. Louis. So he understands educational policy, and he brings a fresh perspective to the game. He also he advocates for diversity and equality, and has a deep understanding of finance and budgeting. He also owns a business. He also worked in private equity. That to me is outstanding. He also has board leadership and board experience. Diana Hopper, same thing. Has PTO experience, understands how to work with and understand the needs of teachers and the staff, as well as understands the constituents that she's working with in the school district, or the parents. That's amazing experience. She's a board president. She's the president of the PTO. She has strategic planning and process improvement skill sets. She does that for a living. Has been on several boards, so he has an enormous amount of board experience. And has demonstrated leadership under tough situations. And my thought is that if we need support for onboarding Nisha as our new superintendent, we can always get outside consultant help support. We can go to Steve for support. I believe that Amy Rubin and Gary can get the job done because they're freaking smart, and they also have experience on the board. They have board experience. I believe the two of them can help lead the process of onboarding Nisha Patel as our superintendent. And I know they're smart enough and savvy enough that they'll go out and call Steve and call other amazing ex-board members, Kristen, I can name all of them, right? For support, because they've all been through this at some point in their time. And you two have an amazing relationship with those folks. So I think that we can still have a fresh perspective, get somebody in here who is dedicated and committed to the process, committed to running again, and you all do a hell of a job at making sure Nisha has all the resources that she needs to be absolutely successful without doing the job for her. Can anyone argue with me about that? Can anyone argue and say that Amy and Gary can't get the job done? Let me see that.
Jason, I don't know that it's a matter of getting the job done. I think it's just important to have that perspective. I don't think that for the people that did rank Steve as number one, I mean, I would be speaking for them, but I don't think that certainly was not the sole reason that he's the top choice. And I will also say that, as we are right now, I started this meeting by saying that he was the one that emerged with the most support. So, if we can't get 4 people, that's fine, but then we're not, we're going to have no one. Because I don't think that support was all over the place. So there wasn't anybody else with that emerged with, as a person with the most support, or a consensus, I should say.
But Amy, I do think this though. I do think that
we need 4 people.
I do think that we can get 4 people to vote for one person.
Okay, well,
I do think that, but I'm not saying. Listen, I want to make sure I'm saying this now that I've had this dialogue. I'm not saying that I wouldn't support Steve. But I do want to say that I do think some of these other folks can get the job done for sure. And I know that a lot of us can get behind some of these folks over here, some of the other candidates, because they're all super sharp. Some of them are similar in nature. And once again, going back to the strategic plan, which is like the most important thing for, especially for Nisha. I do think that some of these experiences that these other candidates have, especially the two that I just mentioned, can really be a benefit for making sure we get the kind of victory we're looking for. Victory is probably not the word, but the success that we're looking for when it comes to the strategic plan is what I'm saying.
I don't think it's anybody doubts that there aren't other good candidates. It's just a relative choice, right? We all have our, opinions, right? I've shared my opinion. I think that Aaron and Diana and Jason are great. I hope they're on a future board. I think for this, given lots of stuff, which I started with, I think Steve's the best. I'm not moving off that, right? I mean, that's my opinion.
Would you support somebody else, Joe?
I'll vote yes on this, the motion that's on the floor. So I guess we'll see, right? There's a motion on the floor, so which eventually we'll vote on, which is to appoint Steve. And so I'll vote yes on that.
So you want my question is would you, if we all were able to come up with another choice, would you vote for the other choice?
Well, I'll ask you the other way. Will you support Steve? There's a motion on the floor. Will you join us in support Steve?
I'll say it for the third time. I would support Steve if that were the case.
Okay.
But we're not. Before we move forward on Steve.
You heard 4 people say they would support Steve.
What I heard was
already said
this is what I heard.
Support Steve.
I heard you and Gary speak first. I heard
Amy and Stacy said they would.
Stacy say that wasn't her first choice, but she would get behind it. Now, I'm paraphrasing. I'm also hearing Kim say, not quite my first choice, but I'm not going to be, a roadblock, a bottleneck. And I'm saying the same thing. I wouldn't be a bottleneck, but that's not my first choice. And my choice might be my first choice, or my second choice might be Stacy or Kim, which would then create a different dynamic. That's what I'm saying.
So beyond the onboarding of the superintendent next year, I mean, I think the other thing that we haven't spent a ton of time talking about as a board, but that's a reality, is, we're going back to full in-person learning and the integration of students back into the building. And although I do agree with Gary that it's important that, we represent constituents with, that no longer have kids in the district, I also wonder with Steve if it's more difficult to relate to going back from pandemic to normalized learning if you haven't had school kids in the district in this last year. So, and when, I don't know how old Steve's kids are, but I think that they're past or in college or past college age. So I don't know, that's just another consideration. But I agree, it's onboarding of the superintendent. He's done it before. But having kids in a COVID district, during a COVID year, that's definitely not something that he's had.
But I think the other thing you got to think about is that, and we all know this, is whether we admit it or not, it takes 6 months to a year to get up to speed as a new board member. Which,
right.
So to your point, Kim, this person's only going to have.
Right, we're plugging a gap.
Right.
Yep. Right.
And so they're going to spend all their time getting up to speed. Right. And so I guess I would argue, yes, you're right. And I think Steve gets up to speed quicker than others, just given his experience. And I do think there's other relevant experience, like whether we like it or not, charter schools are not going away, right? We're going to have our first charter school in St. Louis County coming up, right? It won't be in Clayton, but there's one coming to Normandy next year. So.
But what about this though? How many of us have taught for Teach for America? how many of us have true budgeting and operational experiences through private equity or something like that? And how many of us have that
I do.
besides you? I'm just saying. I mean, I think in-class experience and understanding education policy and finance from that perspective is important. Absolutely important. Coming from a cash-strapped school district, making decisions that are not quite kind of like what we have, where we have resources, and it's about the wants. These are about needs and then trade-offs. And I think that's pretty admirable that Jason Grove, for example, taught in the St. Louis School District. I volunteered to do that. That was his move out of high school, out of college. Could have gone and worked for a bank. Could have gone to work for, I'm just saying, any bank out there that was doing the type of work that he's doing, but chose to, let me put my work back in because I know it's important to me. That's dedication. Diana Hopper has her whole family. I mean, her sisters have gone through the school district. Her son's in the school district. PTO. I mean, dealt with the pandemic.
Right. I mean, I don't think anybody's challenging that all of these people have incredible experience and they all have a different skill set. And I think we are 6 different people. We all have, we all value different skills. And like I think Joe said, I mean, this is an imperfect situation. And we're trying to do the best we can with an imperfect situation. I mean, we're focusing on 3 or 4 of these people, but the reality is all 8 of them have great resumes. Chris Wynn has, she just ran. I mean, and everybody brings something different to the table, and they all have a lot of incredible qualities that will contribute to the board. And as I said when I got started, I hope that all of these people run and that we see some of these people on our board in April. But I do think that Steve has a unique skill set that, for the next 6 months, he's not going to run again. And he said that, and I think that his skill set will be valuable to the board over the next 6 months. And that isn't to say that somebody else's skill set wouldn't also be valuable, but like I said, it's a very difficult decision. And I think Jason said it's a hard choice, and we're all 6 of us are different and come at it from different angles and different places. I don't think there's a bad choice here, to be honest with you. I think that's the beauty of this situation. Is I know this seems contentious, but there's really not a bad choice here. I mean, we've got a bunch of great candidates, and so.
Amy, can I just, I'm glad you mentioned, first of all, Chris Wynn's name. I meant to mention her when I spoke earlier too. She also has, ran a whole campaign last time and did well and has done a lot for our district and all kinds of subgroups of our students as well. I don't remember who said this earlier, Amy, it might've been you, I don't remember. I did just want to correct something. Someone said that Steve only got 2 votes. I don't think that's true. I think it was more than 2 votes. I just wanted to put that out there on the record. Am I right?
Yeah. So what happened was a few board members didn't give us just one person. So it was a couple people listed several people that they would be happy with. They didn't narrow it down. So Steve was Gary and I thought that Steve was the common denominator, the person that had the most support.
Something else I felt to mention was like the reason how my list So of the 8 candidates and how I dwindled my list down to like my top 2 or 3. It came about by, how did you answer the questions with paragraphs? Some didn't do that, so I was able to cross that person out. Did you at least reach out to me? Like 2 reached out to me. 2. And so for me, I'm like, how do I make a decision just off what you gave me in terms of your answers, which might have been very short, compared to others. Yeah, I may know you. I may know what kind of work you've done. I may see you around, but that's not the same as like a certain type of respect for the process.
Okay.
What it says to me is like, if I'm on the board now, I'm thinking I should reach out to Jason just to let him know I'm interested and kind of rap with him about like what my perspective is, what my lens is, how I view the world, how I view, school board policy. Only 2 people reached out to me. That's kind of the norm anyways, but I'm just saying I was kind of happy to get 2, honestly, but just 2 reached out to me.
Okay, well, I think that, everybody had an opportunity to reach out to candidates that they wanted to speak to and get clarification from. So, we've had, like I said, we've had since May. I believe that the applications were due on June the 3rd at 5 p.m. So it's now, June 15th, and we even extended it a week to have some extra time. So I mean, I hope that everybody has had a chance to talk to whoever they needed to talk to. I will say that a few applicants, I believe that a few applicants reached out and they tried to contact board members and the phone calls weren't returned. So I don't know what to say about that, but I will, we've had 2 weeks to do this, and I think we owe it to the applicants to make a decision. And if we, I think it's incumbent upon us to make a decision, and we're all coming at it from a different angle. I don't think anybody's wrong. I agree with everybody's viewpoints that people have voiced in this discussion, but we all come at it from a different angle, and we all value different skill sets. And so when, Stacy might value one thing and I might value another thing, it doesn't mean that she's wrong and I'm right. It just means we have different opinions. And in order to have consensus, we need 4 people that can kind of agree on the person that has the skill set that they are looking for the next 6 months. And, what I've heard is that's Steve. And I understand that not everybody agrees, but that's what I've heard during this conversation.
Amy, and just
Yes, go ahead,
just
Gary.
make one final other point. I want to also just reiterate that in saying this is a very difficult process, I think this is a difficult process no matter who we choose, and it is very difficult not to for all of us, for different reasons, not to pick different people on this list. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm suggesting this is the easy choice. In some ways, I think this is the choice that it disappoints more people that I know well than any other choice would. So I still think it's the best choice. It's the hardest choice and the best choice to me, and that's why I support it. So that's it. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, well, thank you.
And with all due respect, Gary, I mean, I understand what you're saying. This is all of a difficult choice, but at the same time, I mean, if we're choosing people, I could have, I could have been like, let's go tap a few other board members from the past that were, in that same space because they have they have board experience and in the Clayton School District. It's almost kind of an unfair advantage. It puts the people who are like you and I running for the first time at a disadvantage, a true disadvantage.
See, Jason, and I adore you, so I say this with all respect when I tell you this, but I disagree with that. I think that by us appointing Steve, we are not giving an advantage to any of these other 7 applicants, and who have all voiced that they wanted to run in the April election. I think that by us appointing Steve for the next 6 months as a, I think Kim used the word as a plug, then we are putting everybody on equal playing field for the April election. And, for me, that's also something that's very important to me, that we are not giving any implicit endorsement to any one person if it can be avoided. And I think this appointing Steve, that is one of the things that ran through my mind that I was thinking about as Joe and Gary were talking.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not necessarily thinking about the next election, and there's no guarantees that the person who gets in now is going to have a true advantage over everyone else who runs, because there could be someone who's just a popular name, a super sharp person that everyone knows, that runs and has that kind of social capital and can pull out a victory.
Sure.
Right?
I hear you. Yeah.
You know what
I
I'm
think
saying?
that makes sense. I hear
right,
you.
no.
I think that an incumbent, as you and I both know, does have an advantage. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but
Right.
I think an incumbent has an advantage, and whoever we appoint, if they did run, they would be an incumbent, and they would have, for me, they would have an advantage in the April election.
I mean, we've seen some incumbents who are chosen to fill a spot by a governor, like a senator, for example, who that person lost in the general election. So
Yeah, of course. I don't think it's a perfect science at all.
Right,
I just,
right.
it's certainly not a perfect science.
But so I'm just saying. So to your point, I think that I understand what you're saying. I just think that getting some young, fresh perspective in here, some folks who have put some work in certain spaces can provide some perspective to how our current strategic plan, which is novel. It's novel, it's innovative, it's new, it's fresh. There hasn't been anything like this before, ever. This is a new thing. Would you disagree, Sean? Is this a new thing? Is this strategic plan fairly new and fresh?
Very progressive.
Yeah, progressive, based on current times. And these folks here have kids in the district based on current times and have experience right now based on current times. And these folks could definitely help.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. I think that several of these folks, literally, I mean, several of them, more than just 3 or 4. I mean, all of them have different skills that would benefit the board. And that's why I go back to, I hope they all run in April. I'm sorry, Stacy Seawack, but I I hope they do all run in April, and I hope that we see several of them on the board with their fresh perspective. But for the next 6 months, I mean, we're talking about a very small window here where I believe that Steve can hit the ground running and provide some insight and experience that none of the others offer right now today. And that isn't to say that they won't offer that experience in April. I think they will. And I'm very, very, very comfortable with, many, if not all of these people joining our board in April. And I welcome their perspective, and I encourage them to run.
All right, so we keep saying this is a short window, but a lot can happen in 6 to 8 months, right? We all just in 6 to 8 months we dealt with the pandemic that knocked us on our behinds, put us in a position where we had to literally pivot in the moment and make people who are so frustrated, who are like so impatient out there, happy at the same time, make sure teachers, kids were safe. And make sure that students were getting the best they could get at the moment in time, based on the information we had. So I'm just saying, like, a lot can happen in 6 to 8 months.
No, I agree. And I will say that I also think we all need to remember this is one person of 7. Okay, so this is not, this one person, I mean, whoever it is, it's, they're not unilaterally going to be able to, to do anything. And their vote is only one of 7. And so I'm not sure that,
I see your point. No, listen, I see your point, but that does make me a little nervous also, because some of us are neophytes, or some of us are junior to his senior, right? Drastically too, like 9 years to 3 to 1 year to 1 term, or 3 terms in 1 term, or not even quite in to their 2nd year. I mean, that person can dominate, and and some people can acquiesce and capitulate because they're like, well, Steve has, like, man, he's probably right because he has like X amount of experience. I don't want to argue with that.
Well, Jason, you have my word that I'm not going to let any one person dominate anything on this board. So,
well, I believe in you. I believe in you, Amy. I'm not even joking. This is no joke. I don't want anyone out there to think that I'm pacifying you right now. That's not my game. I'm being serious. I believe that Amy can be the best, one of the best board presidents ever. And that's why I'm advocating that we look at 2 or 3 other candidates, and then if we decide based on our analysis that Steve is the best, then I'm outvoted. I'm gonna roll with it.
But we can't do that at this time. We've got to vote on this motion. And it's already been 2 weeks. I mean, if we cannot prolong it anymore. And we owe it to all of the applicants to make this decision and put it behind us, and for us as a board to start moving forward. So I think at this point, and Jason, I'm not trying to cut you off, and you have made some incredible points tonight. Please don't feel like I'm cutting you off or that I don't want to hear what you're saying, but I do think that we need to at least go ahead and vote on this motion, because it's been on the floor for 45 minutes.
So we're gonna vote on Steve. If Steve is the guy, then that's what it is.
So I think we need a vote on the motion and get past that. I mean, and I'm assuming that that we're all ready to do that. I know that Jason, you have some reservations. I mean, is everybody else ready to vote? Stacy, yes. Kim, yes. Okay, I'm not hearing any no's, so I'm just looking at people's faces, shaking their heads. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and, the
It's
motion
okay
is
to say no.
it's okay to say no. I will reiterate that, okay? I will reiterate, it is okay to say no. We don't need total agreement on this, so, I'm gonna go ahead and ask, if we are, in favor of appointing Steve Singer, as the, board director until April of 2022. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Jason.
And I
hear ya.
abstain, but if Steve has 4 other votes, then I support those 4, the majority of the board.
Okay, so Kim, I need you to either say no or yes. But I don't know that for purposes of Sandy recording this, it needs to either be if you abstain, it's gonna be a no.
Fine.
So do you want it, is it a yes or
It'll
no?
be a no. You have 4. I
Okay.
support Steve, but my vote is a no.
Okay. So motion passes 4-2. And I don't know if Steve's listening right now, but if you are, Steve, we will be in touch to go ahead and get you sworn in. And I know that the entire board will support you and welcome you with open arms. And we appreciate your willingness to do this. And for the other applicants, again, I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much for applying. I look forward to you running in April and seeing some of your faces on the board, and that'll in the next year. So with that said, I think we can adjourn, and I will ask Stacy to go ahead and read that motion, please.
Yeah. I move that the Board of Education adjourn.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, everybody, have a great night. I appreciate the dialogue